ka man ngayon, dinala ng pagkakataon, nag-iisang humarap sa hamon, at hindi uurong. Kahit nasa malayo ka, saan mang panig ng daigdig, tinig mo'y makakarating. Pakikinggan ang iyong hiling, ang Tinig Pinoy, karamay mo. Kahit saang dako ng mundo, isang mithiin, isang hangarin, marinig ang tinig natin. Ugali natin kinagisnan, mula nooy nagtutulungan. Filipino ay nagkakaisa, sa ibang bansa ay magkakasama. Isigaw sa buong mundo, nang marinig ang tinig mo. Tinig natin ay pagsasamahin, tagumpay ay magkakamit. Ang Tinig Pinoy, karamay mo. Kahit saang dako ng mundo, isang mithiin, isang hangarin, marinig ang tinig natin. Ugali nating kinagisnan, mula nooy nagtutulungan. Filipino ay nagkakaisa, sa ibang bansa ay magkakasama.
This is Tinig Pinoy.
Tinig Pinoy, Tinig Pinoy.
Isang mapagpalang gabi po ang sanay sa mga ating lahat, or magandang gabi, umaga, hapon, wherever part of the world you are in right now. Ngayon po isang special presentation ng Tinig Pinoy Special Edition. At ito po dahil meron tayong bisita from the Philippines, whom we will be introducing a little bit later. Meanwhile, welcome our co-host and program director for Tinig Pinoy Radio, Regina. Magandang gabi sa iyo.
Magandang gabi Kuya Dan, at magandang gabi sa mga katinig natin sa Canada, at magandang umaga po sa mga katinig natin sa Pilipinas, at hapon naman po sa mga katinig natin in the Middle East. We are so happy Kuya Dan na we can do this in impromptu na interview dito sa Tinig Pinoy Radio, dahil meron po tayong napaka-importanting bisita na merong napaka-importanting pakay dito sa Canada.
Yes, that's right. So without much ado, let's all welcome the chairman of the Commission on Higher Education, Dr. J. Prospero, tama ba yan?
Prospero
De Vera III. Magandang gabi po, Chairman.
Ay, magandang gabi naman sa inyong mga tagapakinig at tagapanood, no? Popoy De Vera na lang po ang tawag niya sa akin.
Popoy. Thank you po, Popoy.
Yeah. Para pa lang matini idol si Chair Popoy, ha? Akala ko kanina si Lito Lapid.
Thank you.
We also have a guest today, one of the very active members of Parliament involved in the Filipino community. Let's all say hello to MP Kevin Lemiro. Good afternoon or good evening, MP Kevin.
Good evening, Kuya Dan and Regina, and I see our honorable good friend, Dr. De Vera. Welcome, and I hope you're continuing to enjoy your experience here in Ottawa.
Yes. I'm sure with you as a host here in Ottawa, MP Kevin, the good chairman will feel at home.
Absolutely.
There you are. Today's interview or meeting with the chairperson of CHED is to me very close to my heart, because there is an issue which has been almost becoming a sore point as far as the Filipino professionals in Canada is concerned. I'm referring to the accreditation of the Filipino professionals. And I am happy that this is one of the things that the chairman, as well as the people who came in Canada with him today, are working on this. So I'd like to ask point, immediately, CHED Chairperson Popoy, what the Commission is doing as regards the accreditation of the Filipino professionals in Canada.
Let me first start, Kuya Dan, with the announcement that I'm really here because Ambassador Robles called me up on the phone and we started discussing his initiative on the recognition of degrees of nurses and invited me over to come. So that's really why I am here. I brought with me several presidents of universities. So we're piggybacking a project of bringing universities together, Philippine and Canadian universities. This is a project that we've been doing for several years now to develop linkages. But outside of Canada, I have been involved in recognition of degrees in many areas of the world because the Filipino diaspora is everywhere. And so we've tried to address the problem of engineers being able to take the engineering exam in Saudi Arabia, for example. In Norway, I talked to the Filipino Nurses Association, also in terms of recognition of their degrees. And we were able to sign an agreement already with New Zealand on putting a system in place for recognition of Filipino degrees in terms of professional. So this is one of several initiatives we've been doing over the past years for our Filipino migrants and our Filipino workers all over the world.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Such initiatives are certainly welcome, but we're particularly concerned with the professionals in Canada. I hear that you are here more on the issues of nurses, getting accredited as professionals here in Canada. So, can you share with us so far what has happened and what achievements we can talk about?
The cause on why we have a problem with the recognition of degrees, there are several reasons. The most important one is really because the Canadian educational system is patterned after the British system, while the Philippine education system is patterned after the American
The
system.
Americans, yes.
And so there is a fundamental problem that we have to address because in the certification of degrees and looking at the curriculum, we'll have to address that concern. Many Filipino nurses tend to migrate to the United States rather than Canada because their degrees there, the exams that they take, are easily recognized, and there is an easier path. Now, in Canada, there is a problem. The first problem before was because we had a K to 12 educational system, while so the number of years of schooling of Filipinos was shorter than what is used in other countries. So that was a problem for a long time. So a graduate of a Philippine university when he goes to Canada is classified as somebody who finished second year in university only because of the number of
right.
years. Now,
Yes.
we have addressed that in the Philippines because the K to 12 law, which was passed several years ago, already added 2 years to the senior high school. So we're now fully K to 12 compliant with the rest of the world. But of course, this is for our students who will now graduate. Our problem is those who graduated previously.
Right.
So there are two elements: the number of years of schooling and the difference in the educational system. And so we have to address that. And the way to address that is to look for a system by which both countries can look at how degrees can be recognized. This is what we have done in New Zealand. We have already signed a document after 3 years of negotiations. So there is a process in place for Filipinos who want their degrees to be recognized in New Zealand. And we are hoping that that template can be used also in Canada because they're part of the Commonwealth system before.
right.
And so the
Yes.
educational system is quite similar. So that is what I presented to Ambassador Robles. Now, the Philippine Embassy has been working very hard on this. In our meeting yesterday, we had a 2-hour meeting with people in the embassy. They have already generated a lot of data on the problem. and they are launching an aggressive information campaign for our Filipino communities to discuss it. The contribution of CHED yesterday was to bring in presidents of Philippine universities that have very strong nursing programs. So, one, we got the insights of the presidents on the problem, on what can be done. But more important, we can mobilize Philippine universities already. Number one, to already understand the dynamics of what the different provinces in Canada really want as a specialization of their nurses. I found out that the related learning experience that is expected for nurses differs from province to province here in
Yeah.
Canada.
That's
Some
correct.
provinces want nurses with good background in psychiatric care. Other provinces require nurses that have very good background in community medicine. So if the Philippine universities already know the inclination of the demand side from the provinces, they could tweak their curriculum already. They could already emphasize certain specializations in the related learning experience. So their graduates will have the necessary competencies already that the provinces in Canada, different as they are, really need. The
Mhm.
other one that we looked at is where is the demand coming from? What parts of Canada, what areas, so that we can mobilize the alumni association of the major universities in the Philippines as a contact point to give information. Because I think Kuya Ray and Regina, uh,
Kuya
the
Dan?
the it is really the Filipinos already here who will tend to recruit Filipino nurses that are related to them, either because they are related by blood or because they come from the same school. So we have to maximize the alumni network of these universities, the top universities, to give the correct information to their students, to give the correct information to their alumni, so that we will be able to address the problem. And of course, the third one, and I am very happy to report that last night we had a very good meeting with the members of parliament, is really to get political support for the recognition. And last night we had very extensive discussions during the meeting at the embassy to see how we can move forward on the recognition of degrees. So those are the things that we did over the past 2 days in the
Thank
meetings that
you.
we had with the embassy people and the members of parliament.
Mhm. You had been very busy, Chair De Vera, and these had been the cry and the dream of the Filipino in Canada for many years now. And I've heard personally the Member of Parliament Kevin Lemeru passionately presented it to the House of Commons. So I'd like to turn on to the Honorable Kevin Lemero to tell us about the progress that the Parliament, through his leadership, is doing when it comes to the accreditation of foreign credentials. Because this is not a problem of Filipinos only. This is a problem that we faces, challenges that we faces in every single immigrants that comes to Canada. Honorable
Right.
Lamuro.
Yes, thank you, Regina. And you can just call me Kevin is fine. And I can tell you, we just heard a very good example of Chair Popoy giving a wonderful explanation. And last night, when we had the Parliamentary Friendship Group, we had parliamentarians from across Canada listen to that presentation. And today, I've talked to a number of them in terms of just the powerful impact of his words last night. And I think, Regina, you made a fairly good assessment. This is an issue that has been around for many years. We're not just talking the last half dozen,
Yeah,
10, 12 years. It's been
exactly.
there for 30 plus years.
Mhm.
Immigrant credentials not being recognized. We often talk about the area of healthcare, and that's where we're spending a great deal of time on this evening, and justifiably so, because I think that's a very easy one to demonstrate the issue. And the issue, quite simply, in its simplest format, is to say that when we talk about, let's say, just the Philippines, every year we get literally hundreds, maybe even going into the thousands, of people that are coming from the Philippines to Canada, many of which are healthcare professionals in the Philippines, practicing nursing, for example, or being a doctor, and they come to Canada and they're not getting those credentials recognized. Both lose out. Canada as a nation loses out because we need that expertise, and and the people that are coming here because they're not being able to use the skills that they acquired in the Philippines. So we need to recognize that right up front. Ambassador Robles has been absolutely incredible as he's taken using through the embassy. He's focused a great deal of attention on this issue. And as Chair Popoy has talked about, I think he just heard about the invite coming out just a few days ago and responded. So we understand the need to be able to deal with something, but it also needs to be highlighted that Canada, during responsibilities, who's responsible for what? For example, the provinces are responsible for the administration and recognition in terms of healthcare professionals. Where Ottawa can play a role is through financial incentive to ensure that provinces do in fact step up, to do the comparisons where some provinces might be doing better than other provinces. Provinces like Saskatchewan, for example, has been more aggressive at sending out employers to recruit, depending on the province, will often determine the type of effort and also the recognition. We need to do a better job, and I think through Ambassador Robles that we're being reminded at the national level that the expectation is that we do more, and I think that we can. I believe that we can do more by talking about the issue, by making sure that parliamentarians at both the provincial and federal level understand the importance of the issue and the amazing amount of wasted talent. It was highlighted during the pandemic. It was very, in many ways, in province like Manitoba, the area that I'm from, the backbone of our healthcare system is being supported by people of Filipino heritage. Walk into any hospital or any care facility, and you will see that. And if you start talking to the community or the workers that are there, you will often find that they are not valued to the degree in which they received the education. So, I would recognize to, our Commissioner of Higher Education, Chair Popoy, that we need to do better here in Canada and express how much we appreciate the good quality education that's already there in the Philippines, let alone I appreciate the fact that they're looking at other ways to modify, which will hopefully see more of an integrated system so that we can deliver a better quality healthcare and maximize the education that people are coming to Canada with.
So
It is really great to be hearing that there are such activities, and it seems that we are having headways as far as accreditation of our talents coming to Canada is concerned. However, I have a little concern. It seems to me I'm getting so many feedbacks here. People are messaging me that apparently they're not seeing us in Facebook.
no,
So
they're not, Kuya Dan.
I'm looking here,
They
and
cannot see us on
it's
Facebook. Yeah.
yeah, it says we're having trouble streaming to Facebook. This may
Yeah.
be an issue with Facebook. Oh, okay. So we have a
Okay.
problem. We are, however, streaming in YouTube.
Okay.
So
So we
uh,
are live in YouTube.
yeah, we are live in YouTube, but not in Facebook.
Yeah.
This is sad. So that's why
Kuya
I'm
Dan,
not getting any.
I will continue as you were trying to figure that out, Kuya Dan. Um, yeah, majority of our listeners are on the Facebook, and that's why it's very important for us to be seen on Facebook. And we were like, where are they? Where are they? They're not on Facebook.
Right.
As we continue on, oh, now I can see Kuya Dan. Or Dina can see, but maybe because Dina is one of the administration. Would you know, Kuya Dan?
I'm not sure about that. So this
Okay.
to me is something that I
puzzle.
cannot,
It's a puzzle.
it's a puzzle, and I don't know how to resolve this. Since
So
it clearly tells us that the problem is with Facebook. I
yes.
hope they
So
did not throttle us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're not talking anything about political, so
interesting.
so we apologize to MP
Uh,
Kevin and Chair Popoy about this. This is a technical issue. Uh, we can either, end the broadcast and restart it. Hopefully, things will be better, or just continue. This is being recorded, and we'll just play it after this particular show. What do you think?
Whatever's best for you, Kuya Dan and Chair Popoy.
Yeah, it's just that we're not getting interactions with those who are, supposed to be connecting live. I'm getting here feedback. They're saying, "Oh, except for Dina." Okay, except for Dina, because Dina is a host in Tinig Pinoy.
but she is fine. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
I can see your
and Kuya
face.
Rudy said he cannot come in.
I know. So a lot of
Okay.
people are not able to connect.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's technical thing. All right. Um, while Kuya Dan is trying to figure that out, um, one thing that I've heard, Chairman Popoy have told us that I did not see it from before, Honorable Kevin. You know, Honor, Honorable Kevin, you and I and the rest of the community in Canada had been talking about this international accreditation for so many years. But I think this is the first time that I am hearing a solution that is step by step that has a potential of being accepted for both Canada and the Philippines. And I am really happy about this to hear this from Chair Popoy. Chair Popoy, how was it received by the members of parliament yesterday?
Oh, very good. Actually, I had a lot of sideline conversations with members of parliament, and everybody was supportive. I think many of them are asking for more information. That means we need to give more data and more discussions. The others understand the problem seriously, and I think the only thing needed for those who understand the issue already is for them to act on it. So, but overall, it was very positive. I was very happy with the session, and I think, as I told Kevin also yesterday, on the part of the commission and on the part of the Philippine government, we're doing it because number one, our Filipino migrants here must be justly compensated and justly recognized for their degrees. But more important to me is because if we don't do anything about it, it is really Canada who loses in the end.
That's right.
Because you have professionals that are needed in many areas of Canada. But because their degrees are not recognized, they cannot contribute to their communities. They cannot practice their profession. So in the end, it is the country that they love and that they have acquired citizenship on, which suffers. And something has to be done about that. So you're addressing two problems, as Kevin said, recognizing the degrees, and so individuals can really be compensated for what they do, but more important, so that they can contribute to the country that they love and that they are now a part of. I think the second one is really the more important one. The reason why we must act on it.
It is really urgent as well, Chair Pupoy, because right now we are really needing a lot more help with the current situation. To our member of parliament, tell us, uh, you had been supporting our community for many years, and we truly appreciate that. Do you see a hope that we will eventually and soon enough be able to see, not only for the Filipino community but for the rest of immigrants in Canada? What do you think? Is it coming to a are we seeing sort of the light in the tunnel when it comes to accreditations here of foreign credentials? A member of parliament, Kevin.
Regina, I really do think we're at an important time in our history because of the pandemic. because of the pandemic, it really has highlighted many of our deficiencies in healthcare. And one of those things that continues to pop up is the dependency on having a larger labor force to provide the quality of healthcare that Canadians expect. At the same time, every time we hear that, we say that we have so many people of all different ethnic diversities that are there, that are prepared to step up to get that recognition, but they're not. And so, as a result of the pandemic, there are some silver linings. Obviously, it was a terrible thing, and I'm very grateful that we're at the tail end of it now. But there are some things that we are learning that have been heightened, and that is one of the things that have been heightened. The failure of governments and universities and professional organizations in not doing a better job at recognizing the amazing talents that we currently have. And, as Chair Popoy has said, yes, it's the love of providing those healthcare services. That's the motivating factor, which is great. That takes, by us not doing it, it takes away from the quality of care we could be providing. But it's also important in terms of the compensation. Recognizing those skill sets. When I went to university, I was always told, it's a deferring of gratification. You invest in your education, believing that you're going to be properly compensated, and they need to be properly compensated too. Recognizing, of course, the real reason they do it is because of a love of service, but compensation does matter too.
Very true.
Okay, can I briefly ask people out there who are tuned in to let us know if we are now being seen live? Okay, we have a comment section here. Kindly advise us because I'm seeing here that it appears the Facebook issue is now resolved. Okay. Meanwhile, we'd like to hear if indeed we are getting live to our audience. Thank you. Regina?
Yes, Kuya Dan. I am really feeling hopeful. As MP Kevin was saying, that perhaps the government of Canada will finally action on this. And Chair Popoy is very, very true in saying all we need is action now. There are process and solutions in place, and these serve Chair Popoy. These solutions you are presenting is not only going to help our Filipino compatriots in Canada, but also the other immigrants in Canada. So we really thank you and everyone that is working with you in putting this together.
Yeah, actually, we've done several things with the embassy yesterday. We gave to the embassy the necessary documents, the curriculum of the nursing programs of the Philippine universities, so that they can start studying it. And so when they sit down with provincial officials, especially those that are involved in healthcare, they can do a comparison of the content of the nursing programs in the Canadian system and also in the Philippine system. So we have actually revised the curriculum for nursing now in the Philippines. And we gave them both the old curriculum and the new curriculum. So when you sit down, there's something to discuss. The other one that I recommended to the ambassador and which was accepted is we're now going to put together some of the best schools in the Philippines for the nursing program, so that we can mobilize them to shift their graduates, especially those who are interested to work in Canada. We have identified the best schools that produce the best nursing graduates, and ahead of time, while the students are still studying in their nursing program, they already know the requirements of working in Canada. They already develop their English proficiency while they are students. And when they graduate, we can create pathways for them so that they can go to Canada and bring their families or to work in Canada. I think it is important for the different provinces of Canada. I was talking with our members of parliament from Nova Scotia last night, and they said they need a lot of healthcare workers. And so I brought with me three university presidents of three of the best nursing schools in the Philippines. so that we make sure that the graduates of the nursing programs in the future are very ready already to work if they are recruited or if they decide to build their future in Canada.
If I may read this, Kuya Dan, Chair
Sure.
and MP from Dina O'Brien, she said, right now Canada is experiencing shortage of medical professionals like nurses. Mine is a board passer nurse or registered nurse in the Philippines, but can only work as a nursing aide or PSW in Singapore, along with her husband who has the same profession. They both work in the government nursing home. Both are sincerely wishing to come and work in Canada. So and we also have in our Filipino community there's the joke, Chair Popoy, and I'm sure MP Kevin knows this, that if you have Filipino gathering about it, it's a good time to to be sick, because there are so many people that are in that are from a health from health profession. Uh, Joking aside, MP Kevin, what are your plans? What are the government's plans right now? If you can share it with us.
Well, I think in part, Regina, I mentioned it when I talked about the types of things that we can learn from the pandemic. And this is one of those issues. So, whether it's the Minister of Health, and there's a number of members of Parliament, and that's why it was so important for MPs to hear what it is that Chair Popoy had to say. Because every election you get new members of parliament coming in, different types of agendas, and so forth. It's important that we keep elected officials educated on this issue. And for the government of Canada today, we will continue to work with provinces, to encourage provinces to work with the different stakeholders. And the primary stakeholders over the years that I have found that at times can be challenging would be your professional groups, whether it's, for example, the nursing associations, your universities here in Canada, the different provincial governments and licensing bodies. Those are the types of barriers that they often have to go through in order to get their credentials recognized. I have often thought that for many of these individuals that are coming into Canada from all over the world, that they are in fact quite qualified to be there. But it's the process that you have to go through in order to be able to practice as a registered nurse versus a nurse's aide. And that's why I highlighted it's an interesting time that we're in right now as a direct result of the pandemic, because there's a higher sense of awareness. But there's an educational component that's also important for elected officials and others to, in essence, start doing the work that's necessary to recognize credentials. I've been advocating it for quite a while, and hopefully, whether it's the national government, provincial governments, the unions, the post-secondary institutions, that we'll get our act together so that we can ultimately recognize those skills that are coming in, especially when we start hearing what countries like the Philippines is doing to support our healthcare system. We're very, very fortunate to have such qualified people coming to our country.
Thank you for your kind words, MP Kevin. As you have stated earlier, this issue of foreign accreditation has been there for a long, long time. I've been in Canada for the last 31 years, and on my second year, this is one of the things that we took as a project, that we be given recognition for our credentials. And I think I haven't heard from the government, Philippine government, any initiative done by that is now being done by Chair Popoy and his commission. So we're happy that somebody from the Philippines is doing something to address this issue that has been nagging us, for many, many years. And I think, the fact that there is a pandemic and a great demand for healthcare workers, particularly nurses, is something that could boost our chances of getting our professionals finally recognized and accredited in Canada.
You know,
What do you
Kuya
think?
Dan,
Yeah.
If I
Sir.
can just provide a comment. You
Yes.
know, in the last 10 years, I could count on one hand the number of members of parliament that have come up to me to talk about this specific issue. You know, yes, when you're in a committee and so forth, yes, it's talked about. But in terms of a random situation, but because of the presentation that was made, where you have the Philippine government expressing concerns and wanting to cooperate and encourage, as a direct result, I had no fewer than a half dozen members of parliament talk to me today about it, and a few of them saying, what can we do as a friendship group to advance the issue? So that's why it's so important that you know, that the Philippine administration today is actually far more proactive at protecting the interests of the workers that I've witnessed in the last number of years than I have in the years before that, which is encouraging to see.
Thank you. And kudos to the Philippine government, particularly to CHED. I have heard so much good words about Chair Popoy and the very many things that he has done. For example, in the Philippines, he has a legacy program such as the free tuition to universities and colleges. So I'd like to hear from Chair Popoy about this project.
Thank you, Kuya Dan. Actually, we draw inspiration from President Rodrigo Roa Duterte because a lot of these reforms would not have been possible without presidential leadership. You know, the free higher education law, or a free education at the tertiary level is not a new idea. You know, even when we were students, we wanted that we are not, we're able to address the burden of finding money to study. But it had to take a president to simply say we will do it. And so what no administration has done in the past was done on August 3, 2017, when President Duterte signed the Republic Act 10931. So I'd like to inform Kevin that in the Philippines now, in our public universities, students don't pay tuition and miscellaneous fees in our public universities, in all undergraduate programs. That has never been done, never been attempted historically in the Philippines. And so today, about 1.6 million young Filipinos studying in our public universities do not pay tuition and miscellaneous fees. They get free
Wow.
education at the university level, including nursing, because nursing is an undergraduate program in the Philippines. So you want to be a nurse, you get free education. We have also about 500,000 young Filipinos being given what we call the tertiary education subsidy. They get additional subsidy for their financial needs as students. And so this was made possible because there is an administration that wants to uh, wants to make sure that the dream of every young Filipino to complete his education can be assisted by government. This emphasis on addressing and helping our Filipinos abroad is also because the president, when he ran for office, got a very strong mandate from our Filipino communities abroad. And he takes the problems of our Filipinos abroad very seriously. And that is why in CHED, we have been doing all of this. Actually, I have been joining the president in his official visits. I was with him in the official visit to Vietnam and in China because these are problems we're also addressing in other countries. This was also brought up in the bilateral meetings with the president when he went to the Middle East. And so there are several things, Kevin and Kuya Dan, that are already going to be implemented in the next couple of weeks. Number one, I am scheduling a Zoom session with our ambassador and the people in the embassy to discuss how we did it in the case of New Zealand. I was saying earlier that we have put in place a system of recognition of degrees. So the head of the technical panel that negotiated with New Zealand is going to discuss with the people in the embassy so they can understand and see whether this is a template that could be adopted in the negotiations with provincial authorities in Canada. Number two, I am mobilizing the technical panel on nursing of the commission to discuss and sit down also with the Philippine embassy staff. The head of the technical panel on nursing is a registered nurse who is also the head of the accreditation agency in the Philippines, a former president of a public university. And so she carries both her expertise as a nurse, her experience as the president of a public university, and now her current position as part of the as chair of the accreditation body in the Philippines, to understand the mechanics of accreditation in Canada so they can guide our embassy in their discussions with the different provinces. So those are two things that are already scheduled in the next couple of weeks. That is what I told the ambassador yesterday. And number three, when I go back to the Philippines, I'm going to meet with the top nursing schools to already mobilize them so that they can reach out to their alumni. On Saturday, the president of Mariano Marcos State University is hosting an alumni meeting with the alumni of Mariano Marcos State University in the Ottawa and Toronto area. And I was told that there are close to 100 Filipinos who are attending both in person and online on Saturday. And we want to mobilize the alumni network of our universities to bring information to our alumni, and bring information also to their relatives in the Philippines, especially those that plan to migrate to Canada. And so I'm mobilizing the universities in the discussions this afternoon with Philippine universities. We had very good discussions with Nova Scotia universities to look into the possibility of really looking at synchronizing the nursing programs in Nova Scotia and the Philippines, because Nova Scotia has indicated an interest to partner on the nursing programs. So these are three or four actions that are already scheduled in the coming 2 to 3 weeks, immediately when I go back to the Philippines.
Wow, you have really initiated and conducted a lot of things that is proving to be a positive as far as Filipinos being able to go to countries like Canada and being recognized for their profession. And I'd like to ask the good MP from the West. The Liberals are known to be friendly to immigrants, and it is with hope that with MP Kevin's group, the Friends of the Philippines in Parliament, would be able to, initiate measures in conjunction with what Chair Popoy has been doing for the benefit of the Filipinos back home, like free tuitions now, which means we can have more students graduating from state colleges and universities who can be potentially practitioners in Canada. So, MP Kevin,
Yep.
the task is, in your court.
Well, I tell you, there's a couple of things that come to my mind with what Chair Popoy had to say there. And first of all, I was a little bit jealous when you make reference to Halifax and the university. I think you said out in Halifax or out in the East Coast. I kind of wish
Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia. I kind of wish it was University of Manitoba, and I'm sure
Right.
Regina would be saying, "What about Carleton?" and so forth. I look at it. I think that by far is probably the most direct, beneficial way in which we can ensure credentials are in fact being recognized. But there's so much more that we can do. At the end of the day, I said this before in many different types of speeches, and I would say this more so for you, Chair Popoy, and that is that Canada really does need the Philippines far more than the Philippines needs Canada. We very much value the contributions that the Philippines has made to Canada and our development and the type of services and who we are today is in good part because of the immigration that has come from the Philippines to Canada. And, I recognize that we do need to do a better job at recognizing those amazing talents that are coming. And my commitment, and as the chair and personally to you, is to continue to push this very important issues in whatever way that I can. I really did appreciate the fact that you took the time, very short notice, to come to Canada to express something that I know needed to be expressed. And I very much appreciate the fact that the government of the Philippines is taking a far more proactive approach at making sure that some of that amazing talents, when you talk about free university, I think many of us would wish to see something of that nature. I think we need someone like Chair Popoy to run for Parliament or for MLA in one of our provincial jurisdictions, possibly Ontario, where we can
But
implement.
first, we have to recognize him.
Yeah, it would be quite the accomplishment. We just got universal child care, let alone to get post-secondary education. And as I say, what takes place in the Philippines today, so many workers around the world, but I don't think any country has benefited more on a per capita basis than Canada. So on my behalf, as the chair of the Canada-Philippine Parliamentary Friendship Group, express our appreciation for everything that you and the department are doing in regards to making sure that not only Canada, but throughout the world, where there's a high demand for workers, and the critical role that your country plays in meeting that demand. And hopefully we'll be able to, to continue to build that healthy relationship in the years ahead. Maybe when I'm down there in January, we'll be able to get together.
There you go.
At that point. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to duck out. And I do appreciate the invite.
Thank you very much,
very much.
Kevin. It's a pleasure to have you around always.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank
That
you.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
That's the Member of Parliament, Kevin Lamoureux. He is the chair of the Canada-Philippines Inter-Parliamentary Friendship Group. Thank you very much, Honorable Kevin Lamoureux. And Chair Popoy, I think our admin, Susan Crystal J, is now thinking, why is she paying for the university when it is free now? Just joking. Hello, Susan. Good morning. There's a comment here about from a Facebook user. We don't know who. It says one of the early 2000 issues in foreign credentialing then was the failure of the Senate to ratify the reciprocity agreement as affirmed by then Senator Santiago. What do you say to this, Chair De Vera?
I think the major problem with the credentialing in Canada is because in Canada, all education are powers of the provincial governments, not the federal government.
That's right.
And so it is really challenging on the part of Philippine authorities, on the part of the Commission, for example, because you have to negotiate with every province. And the different provinces have different set of priorities. Some are very open, some are not so open. And it takes a lot more effort to work with all the provinces rather than work with federal authorities.
Para kayong pinagpapasapasahan, Chair?
Yes, at saka iba-iba yung kausap mo.
Correct
Yung iba, they want the problem solved. Yung iba, they don't understand the dynamics of the problem, so they don't see an urgency. So I will agree with our Member of Parliament. There is a silver lining to the COVID pandemic, and this exposed the need for healthcare workers. And we must seize that opportunity to work with the provincial governments and sit down with them. I think that is what we urgently need. On the part of the Commission, we are ready to sit down. We are ready to assist the Philippine Embassy here and whatever technical information they need, whatever expertise they need on the part of the Philippines. And I personally will give instructions so that the proper experts can sit down with the Philippine Embassy and to sit down with their counterparts in the different provinces so they can discuss the details of this. it's easy to agree that there is a need for credentialing, but they say the devil is always in the details.
Yes,
So
indeed.
we are ready to work on the details. We can mobilize the experts to go and look at the curriculum, compare the curriculum of the nursing program here and in the Philippines. Our universities are ready to sit down with their counterpart universities here to see how we can synchronize the curriculum for future students, and also to recognize similarities in the curriculum and learning outcomes of previous students who have already completed their education and are here in Canada. I think that is the difference between the approach now and the approach before.
Right.
Because we are ready to work on the details. We are ready to sit down and
The,
discuss it point by point.
Yeah,
the
I'm
common,
glad that you said something like that. Like before, from memory, I could not remember any initiative such as the one you have now done for this particular issue, and I'm happy to hear all of this. We have been asking our member of parliament here in Ottawa, for example, to look into this. Of course, the issue of governments changing every now and then, which means the initiatives are usually lost because another set of politicians would come in and they have other priorities. But there is now a blueprint of sort because you have taken the initiative. You have those programs that you have now put into place. And I think with such initiatives, there will be silver lining as far as the credentials of Filipino professionals is being recognized finally in Canada. We know that the good chairperson of CHED is a very busy person, and we know that you have been all over. We understand that you love biking, and you have practically biked around the Philippines. Is that true?
Yes, I have ridden my bike in all the regions in what I call Padjak, claiming victory for free higher education. I have
wow.
Wow.
I have met with students, with universities. I have visited the universities in all the regions in the Philippines, and I have set foot in areas where no CHED chairman has ever set foot. I've gone to Tawi-Tawi, to Sulu. I biked across the island of Basilan. I have been into places where people are afraid before to go. And so it's a very good learning experience also for me. But Kuya Dan and Regina, tomorrow I drive back to Toronto. I'm signing an agreement with York University and Ryerson University before flying back to the Philippines. Also, in terms of educational agreements between Philippine universities and Ryerson University and also York University. This afternoon, we had a ceremony to recognize all the Philippine universities that have existing agreements with Canadian universities, and there's a lot of them. So there's a lot going on in higher education, developing exchanges of faculty, of students, even developing joint degree programs. We are working now on a partnership between the Philippine State College of Aeronautics and WCC with the British Columbia Institute of Technology in British Columbia on aircraft maintenance and avionics. We are looking
Wow.
into niche programs. We have a project that is linking now Philippine universities on animation with Capellano in British Columbia and Algonquin here in Ottawa. They have agreements. Filipino students are being sent here. Training is going to be done on niche programs like animation. There's a lot of very good Filipinos who do animation. But
Oh,
the
yeah.
problem is they get the downstream portion of it, which pays less. We want to go to the upstream portion, the creative part. How do you do that? You produce graduates that have credentials both from Philippine universities and Canadian universities. So
Right.
their marketability and their ability to earn is much higher because they have good credentials, so that they can participate in the upstream part of animation, which is conceptualization.
Right.
The development of ideas, and so they can get a bigger size of the pie.
Of
Uh,
Yes.
course.
yeah, we,
Yeah.
we will produce Filipino graduates who can be competitive in any part of
Right.
the world
It's
because
about time.
they have credentials from Philippine universities
Mhm.
and also Canadian universities.
Right.
So that's what we're doing in Toronto before I fly back to Manila.
And Chair and Kuya Dan, the earlier comment as his Facebook user is actually from Dr. Ernie Cordero. He used to be a former credentialing recognition in British Columbia, and he told me that Dr. Our Chair Popoy here is from De La Salle, and I think so as Ernie Cordero is also from La Salle.
Yeah,
Those
I think he was my student before when I was teaching in Lasan.
Oh, that's amazing
Yeah.
po. And one of our admin as well says that her child is studying at the University Isabela State University now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a question on screen from Dino Bryan. Sabi niya, question daw to Chair Popoy, please. Is Our Lady of Fatima Nursing School in Quezon City a good school?
Oh
Thank you po.
yes, yes. Our Lady of Fatima is a very good school. It has attained the autonomous status of private universities. That's the highest classification that the commission does, and its president, President Caroline Enriquez, is a very good president. They produce very good health professionals. Their campuses produce very good doctors and nurses. So
I
it's good
know
if you
them,
will
yes.
send your, if you send your children there or your relatives are there, you are assured of quality education.
I
There
am
you
a
go, Dina.
graduate po. Thanks. Chair Popoy, I am a graduate of Emilio Aguinaldo College in Taft Avenue. EAC.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Opo. Midwife in EAC.
The way Chair Popoy answered the question of Dina O'Brien, shows you how familiar he is with the educational system back in the Philippines. And I'm truly impressed. I mean, it's not always that I'm impressed with someone we're talking to,
True.
but saludo po kami sa inyo, Chair Popoy. Tama po yung naririnig namin. We have heard so much about you and how professionally and efficiently you have done so much for the Filipino students and the educational system back home. Mabuhay po kayo.
Tuloy-tuloy lang po kayo, and we promise here at Tinig Pinoy, any announcement you have, we are going to work with you and we are here to help you disseminate the information. So always think of us. We have a website where we can also post your articles, and you can always, if you want to come on regularly and tell us every time you have a news, right, Kuya Dan? We're welcome
Right?
to have you
Yes.
back.
Always po.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you very much, Kuya Dan and Regina. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak. I am familiar with the media industry. I used to host two television programs on ABS-CBN and
Opo. Yeah.
ANC before. So
Right. Yes.
I have very good friends in the media, and media is really a very powerful ally in disseminating the correct information to the viewers. And so I thank you for giving me time to give my thoughts and the directions we're taking. But I do need your help because we want to make sure that this credentialing issue in Canada really moves forward. And so in the future programs that you have, I can bring as a guest, for example, the head of the technical panel that that designed the agreement with New Zealand. I can also bring the head of the technical panel on nursing so they can explain better in detail some of the technical aspects of the differences of the nursing program and what we need to address. And I hope you could give us time to participate in the discussions on this.
Opo.
Thank you
Well, we,
po.
we will certainly welcome anybody that you are endorsing, knowing that you are doing so much for our students back home and for the educational system sa ating bansa. Maraming salamat po.
At maraming
Nagpapasalamat
salamat.
din si Dina O'Brien. Yay, great investment daw. So lumalabas, nagpapaaral pala
Oo.
si Dina O'Brien dyan.
At kami din po
Meron,
ay nagpapasalamat kay Kuya Rudy Sabas. Siya po ang nakipag-usap sa
Si
Tinig
Rudy
Pinoy.
pala yan.
Siya po ang nakipag-usap sa Tinig Pinoy upang ma-arrange ang interview na to. So maraming salamat
Yeah.
po Kuya
No,
Rudy Sabas.
Rudy has been very helpful all these past years in our projects with the Canadian Bureau of International Education. So I was just with him a couple of weeks back in Dagupan in Pangasinan when I presided over the conversion of the Colegio de Dagupan into the Universidad de Dagupan. So he says here, I have to mention my initiatives on sports development. Yes, the commission has now taken leadership in tertiary sports. CHED before was not doing anything on tertiary sports. I have decided that CHED must exercise its responsibility on developing tertiary sports. And so we are launching our university games, I think, in the next 2 months. And we have lined up a lot of activities to develop a pathway for students who want to specialize on sports education. So that's one of the new things under the Duterte administration, which was not there before.
Okay. With the Duterte administration coming to a close, sa palagay po ninyo itong mga ganitong inisyatiba ninyo ay magpapatuloy pa rin?
I hope so. I think we have put in place the foundation for continuous improvement in higher education. Maganda naman yung aming ginagawa. So I hope that those who will be appointed in the higher education sector will continue this. Some of the things that we have initiated cannot be reversed, like free higher education. You cannot reverse that because there's going to be a lot of very angry students who will not vote for you in the next election. So it's going to be a political suicide if a politician says we will stop funding higher education for free higher education. But the other ones, we need education champions. One of the things I'm pushing for in this campaign is to make higher education an election issue, to require the candidates for president and vice president to stake their position on higher education and commit to continue the initiatives on higher education. So there are discussions going on now with several of the candidates to force them to talk about higher education during the campaign.
You got our support there, Chair De Vera. We are with you on that suggestion. I think it should be discussed and they should decide their position on that. Thank you po very much. It's 8:01 in the evening, Kuya Dan.
Yes, mabuhay po kayo, Chair Popoy. At salamat po sa inyong pagpapaunlak na makasama namin kayo ngayong gabi dito sa Tinig Pinoy Special Edition. Alam po namin how busy you are and that you have been on the go and you still have so much to attend to tomorrow sa Toronto. So sa punto pong ito, magpapaalam kami. Maraming salamat po muli sa inyo. Regina?
Maraming salamat, Chair De Vera, kay Kuya Rudy Sabas, sa ating mga admin, kay Kuya Dan, kay Member of Parliament Kevin Lamaro, at sa ating mga tagapakinig. Salamat po.
Maraming salamat po. Magandang gabi po.